Idaho Falls Pediatrics, proudly supporting kids in our community in 7 Questions with Emmy.
Hey guys, welcome back to 7 Questions with Emmy. Today I'm here talking with Richard Elliott, which by the way is my little brother's name. It's Elliott, and it's spelled the exact same way, so.
That's the right way to spell it.
Yeah. You are the Principal Tabernacle Choir Organist, and you've studied music and you've performed all over the world. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Happy to. Thank you, Emmy.
Also, we need to mention they changed the color. They changed the color purple just for me because it's the 7 Questions color. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, you ready to get started with the questions?
Sure.
Okay, question number 1. When did you know you wanted to become an organist?
I actually didn't really make up my mind until I was 29 years old. So I just kept sticking my toe in the water, and thinking this is kind of neat, but it wasn't until I was 29 years old and I was working on a doctorate in organ that I thought this is really what I want to do. And it's because I love so many kinds of music. So I love jazz, and I love a lot of rock music, and I love classical music and church music. And I just thought, well, if I'm an organist, maybe I can only play one kind of music. But I've got the best job in the world for an organist, I think, because the Tabernacle Choir does all kinds of music, and we've even performed with the Sesame Street Muppets, so it's a lot of fun, and I never get bored.
Yeah. Question number 2. How many hours a day do you practice?
When people ask me how many hours a day I practice, I always say not enough, because there's always room for improvement. But on a typical day, I'll practice anywhere between 1 hour and up to 10 hours. So I'll be on the other side of the country next week on a new organ, and so I'll have to spend at least 10 hours one of those days just getting used to the new organ and getting things set up and everything. But most days it's around 3 hours of practicing just to keep things in shape and to feel comfortable.
Can you tell me where you're going, or is it top secret?
That one's in Atlanta. So I have a son who's in college there, and he's an organist too. He's not studying organ, but he practices on an organ at a church in Atlanta. And I said to them, as a thank you gift for letting our son practice there, can I come out and do a benefit concert at your church? So I'll be doing that, and the money that they raise will go towards the maintenance of the organ in the church there.
That's really cool.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Question number 3. What is the hardest piece you ever had to learn, and how long did it take you?
Believe it or not, I started working on a piece of music, a really hard piece of music, when I was 27 years old, and I still haven't learned it. Oh. I keep getting stuck on it and saying, well, I'll come back to it later. And just last week, I pulled it out again and thought, before I retire, I'm going to finally learn this piece. But most of the music that I can learn in a few weeks. There was one really hard piece that's about 20 minutes long that took me about 6 months to get it totally learned. And then there's other kinds of music where you can learn it in a few months, but to really play it in front of an audience and to feel like you kind of own the piece, it takes at least a year, 2 years of living with it. It's kind of like a crock pot where you put the food in there and you just let it sit for a long time, and you come back and stir it every now and then, and finally when it's all ready, it's really, all the flavors have mixed together. So there's some music like that, including the music of Bach, who is one of the greatest organ composers of all time, where you just need to let it season. So you can learn the notes and sort of play it when, in about a month or two, but to really do a good job and to want to be able to do it in front of a big crowd, it takes a year or two.
Yeah. Question number 4. 5. What is the difference between the organ here and in the tabernacle and other organs?
What's the difference between this organ and other organs? Well, for one thing, this is one of the largest organs in the world. This organ has 11,623 pipes. It's a lot of pipes, so it's somewhere in the top 20 organs in the world. Also, it's probably one of the most famous organs. It's been on the radio every week for the last 95 years with the Tabernacle Choir's broadcast music and the spoken word. It started back in 1929. It's been on TV for over 60 years now. And so a lot of people who don't know anything about organs know this organ because they see it on TV, on the internet and everything. So that's one more way in which this organ is different. And also it's probably one of the most played organs in the world. We have organ concerts almost every day of the year here, and we have organists coming from all over the world to play. So there are some days when this organ never gets turned off. It's just on 24 hours a day. And so that's another thing that makes it different from a lot of organs. But to me, what makes this organ special and what makes it different is that all the people who worked on this organ over the years since 1867 when it was first installed, and the people who worked on this building, they weren't thinking about making the world's largest organ or the world's loudest organ or the most famous organ. They just wanted to make something beautiful. And that's what I love about this organ. It makes such beautiful sounds, just like the Tabernacle Choir. And this room itself is just perfect for the organ, and that makes it beautiful too. So the last person that really worked a lot on this organ back in 1948, he said, "This is the greatest organ I've ever built, and I know it will stay that way." And he said that the building itself had a lot to do with that, but he also did the very best he could on the organ. So to me, that's what makes this organ really special.
Yeah. What is the most challenging thing about playing the organ?
The most challenging thing about playing the organ, number one, you're making music with your feet. And your feet are, they're not that great at playing music. So these are actually dance shoes. They're tap dance shoes without the metal taps on them. So they're all leather on the bottom. And that way you can slide around and you can kind of feel what you're doing. But it's really tricky. It's hard enough just to play with your two hands, but then when you add your feet into that, it makes it extra complicated. So that's one thing that makes the organ challenging. Another thing is you see all the knobs there.
Yeah.
So each one of those controls a set of pipes, and it takes a long time to learn how to use those, and you have to kind of hear different sounds in your head. Most organ music actually doesn't tell you which one of those to choose, so you have to kind of just decide what you think sounds best. So that's different. And then you probably know from playing the piano that on the piano, if you hit the keys harder, it makes a louder sound, and if you hit them not so hard, it makes a softer sound. But on the organ, it doesn't matter how hard or how soft you hit the keys, it plays all the same loudness. And so you have to do other things to make it louder or softer. There's a lot of mechanics, in playing the organ. So it's not the kind of instrument you can just sit down and make music. You have to do a lot of extra work in there. So to me, those are the things that make the organ extra hard to play.
Yeah. I'm from Idaho, and we are known for our famous potatoes. Have you ever performed in Idaho, and what's your favorite way to have a potato?
Oh, good questions. Yes, I've played at least a dozen times over the years in Idaho. I've played in Boise and Idaho Falls, where you're from, and Pocatello and Rexburg many times. And in fact, when I played in Boise, back in 2011, I actually wrote a piece that was a set of variations on an old railroad song called Way Out in Idaho. So I've even written a piece of music that's about Idaho. And for that concert, it was actually on the 4th of July, I remember. And right after I finished playing the concert, then the city shot off their fireworks down by the river there. And I remember thinking, this is the only time I've ever played prelude music for fireworks. So that was really great. But I've enjoyed every time I've played in Idaho. And potatoes, I think probably my favorite way to have potatoes is hash browns. I love a big breakfast with hash brown potatoes, but I never met a French fry that I didn't like. So,
Well, I have a gift for you, and you might meet a French fry today.
Oh, I can't wait.
Or the before of a French fry, I should say. How did you get your job as the Tabernacle Organist?
So back in 1990, I was teaching at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, and my wife was teaching piano, I was teaching organ. and I got a phone call from one of the organists here, and he said the senior organist is going to be retiring in about a year, and we're wondering if you would like to be considered for the job. And my wife and I actually loved teaching, so we didn't just jump at it right away. We had to talk it over and think things through. But then a few weeks later, I called them up and said, okay. And then a few weeks after that, I was actually here in the building right over there, the assembly hall, and I was down in the basement there, and they brought in a stack of music, and they said, you have 24 hours to learn all this music, and then you're going to have to play it with the conductors conducting you just as if the choir was here. So I had 24 hours to learn that music, and I had to do some other things so they could see how quickly I could learn things. And so I did that, and then a few months later I got a call, and they asked me and my wife to come up and meet with one of the top leaders of the church, Gordon B. Hinckley, and he talked to us for a while, and then he said, okay, well, you're approved for the job, but you have to keep it a secret for 6 months, because the organist wasn't retiring for a long time. And so that was one of the hardest secrets that I've ever had to keep. But then finally, 6 months later, I came here, and I've been here for 32 years now.
That's really cool. Okay, I have a couple bonus questions now. Okay, bonus question number 1. What advice do you have for someone who wants to take music lessons?
The first thing I would say to somebody wanting to take music lessons is, don't worry if you're young, don't worry if you're old. It's never too early or too late to start, and it's a wonderful thing. I've never heard anybody say, man, I sure am mad that I learned how to play the piano or the violin or the flute or whatever. So everybody that I know that's learned to sing or play an instrument has felt that it was a really, really good thing. And I've known people that were in their 90s, that were 91, 92 years old, that were just starting to learn how to play the piano or the organ. And I think it's never too late to start. So I'd say dive right in. The second thing I'd say is get the best teacher you can get. Especially get a teacher who understands you and who will help you to be your best, and who will help you to practice, but in the right way, not by saying, I'm going to be mad if you don't practice, or by being mean. But there are good teachers out there who know how to help their students want to improve and want to practice. And then the third thing I would just say is just practice, practice, practice. Like they say when the tourist in New York City stopped somebody and said, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? They said, practice, practice, practice. So that's what we do here, and there's no way to improve on a musical instrument or in sports or whatever. So you just have to practice and work at it and not give up.
Yeah. Is there a place or an organ in the world that you would love to play someday?
Wow. I've played a lot of the biggest organs in the world, so that's not as interesting to me, but there's actually an organ over in the Netherlands in a city called Haarlem. It's called the Bavokerk, and I've been there to hear the organ. It was played by Mozart, it was played by Handel. All these famous musicians played there, and it's a beautiful instrument, and it's a work of art. So someday, maybe I'd like to just sit down and play a few notes on that. But apart from that, I enjoy playing every organ I play, and my feeling about organs is they're like people. There's no perfect organ, there's no perfect people, but every organ has something to offer, and something that's nice and that you can enjoy. And so wherever I go to play organs, I'm just always happy to be there and to make a new friend with the organ and new friends with the people there.
Okay, I have a present for you, and then I have one more question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this present is all special for you, so you can open it right now.
Okay, thank you.
You don't have to wait till Christmas.
Oh, it's a potato.
Yeah, it's an Idaho Spuddy Buddy.
Oh, great. I love it. Thank you. I'll sit it on the organ next time I play.
And there's a couple more things in there. There's a thank you card for you.
Thank you.
And then there's a 7 questions pen.
Wow.
And a business card.
Oh.
And then a 7 questions light box that
Cool.
says your name on it. Because when I do Zoom interviews, I have a light box in the back that says like their names, and so it lights up. And so if you hold on this button, then it lights up.
Oh, that is really neat. I've never seen one of those before.
Sorry I couldn't write Richard. We ran out of letters.
Yeah, I go by Rick or Richard, so
Okay.
this is great. So
Okay.
everybody my friends all call me Rick.
Okay, and the last question is, can you play me a little something on the organ?
I'd be happy to play something, sure. And since we talked about playing with the feet, I think I'll play a piece that starts out with just the feet playing. So if you watch carefully, my left foot will be playing the bass line and my right foot will be playing the melody, and I'll even try to snap my fingers, and if you want to snap along, you can do that too.
That was really cool.
Thank you.
It's cool to see it in person because we watch your show every Sunday in the mornings. So it's so cool to hear it in person and be in here.
It's a totally different thing to hear it in person. Same with the choir. So yeah, it's a special place, special organ.
Thank you so much for talking with me.
You're welcome, Emmy. It was great to talk to you.
Thanks so much for watching. Remember, new 7 questions interviews are posted every Thursday. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Love you guys. Bye.
Idaho Falls Pediatrics, proudly supporting kids in our community, and 7 questions with Emmy.